Online posts by a man who sued Gwyneth Paltrow for a ski accident 7 years ago could have turned tide of the Shell case, but were discovered by an internet detective after neither party to case was able to get them back. Lawyers for 76-year-old Terry Sanderson claimed that the Hollywood star struck him on the slopes of Flagstaff Mountain at Deer Valley Resort on February 26, 2016. A permanent traumatic brain injury that takes away the pleasure of life. Meanwhile, Ms. Paltrow claims that it was Mr. Sanderson who hit her. Earlier this week, new evidence emerged after online detective Michael Fletcher accessed a link that Mr. Speaking to The Independent on Wednesday. Mr. Fletcher said he should create an account on Meetup website and get back to group chat discussion from day of ski accident. I've been watching the case. After I kept saying, "This is the most important piece of evidence," I thought I'd check it out, said Fletcher. Beware, I did all of this on a cell phone. Emerging messages between Mr. Sanderson and witness Craig Ramone offer insight into their new reaction after the accident, as opposed to their own version of what happened on the slopes in Deer Valley 7 years later. Some of his statements on Meetup forum match up with what jurors have heard at the 7-day trial so far, while others contradict statements of Mr. Sanderson and Mr. Ramone to some extent. Here's how these posts measure up to what's been said at the hearing so far. Mr. Sanderson skiing again. 1. The argument central to Mr. Sanderson's argument is that his collision with Ms. Paltrow robbed him of his attractiveness and joy life. The jury heard that because of Mr. Sanderson's cognitive decline, he could no longer enjoy activities that brought him joy, such as dancing, wine tasting, and skiing. I researched ski group, went back to 2014 to each of that group's past events Craig Ramone and Terry participated in, Fletcher told The Independent. However, Mr. Fletcher said he found a piece of paper that implied that Mr. Sanderson had at least attempted to ski after his accident with Ms. Paltrow on October 22, 2016. "We usually ski in the middle of the week and some Sundays," Sanderson said on Monday that he tried to do so without success, even though his doctor had instructed him not to ski again. "I was told that if I had one more accident, I could be in a nursing home full-time," he told jurors. Did Craig Ramone know about Ms. Paltrow's celebrity status? Cross-examined by defense last week, Craig Ramone claimed that he only became familiar with Ms. Paltrow's celebrity status thanks to another member of Meetup group who was skiing with him and Mr. Sanderson on day of crash. Mr. Ramone said he was initially informed by Mrs. Paltrow's son, Moses ski instructor, Eric Christensen, that Mr. Sanderson had taken Gwyneth Paltrow. Then, on Tuesday, March 21, he testified that another skier had told him that the Hollywood star was with a guy called Coldplay, most likely referring to Chris Martin, the band's lead singer and Ms. Paltrow's ex-husband. In reality, Ms. Paltrow was skiing with her children Apple and Moses and then boyfriend Brad Falchuk. Ramone also claimed that Mr. Falchuk gave him a dirty look as he passed an unconscious Sanderson, whose face was still in the snow. But days later, while describing battle in the Meetup group chat, Mr. Ramone gave a much more colorful insight into his knowledge of Goop King. Gwyneth beat Terry last week. Last Saturday his son broke his arm while skiing in Park City, wrote Mr. Ramone. Gwyneth was staying at the Montage. She flew her plane out of Millionaire Airport, I wish I knew so many people. What pisses me off is that Gwyneth beat Terry and she just walked away. Although the post repeated Mr. Ramone's previous statement regarding this version of events, Ms. Paltrow's lawyers attempted to open loopholes in Ramone's claims that she was barely aware of Ms. Paltrow's fame. After the Meetup posts were admitted to court on Monday, Mr. Ramone took the stand once again to explain his words. She told the jury, a lady she knew at Montage told her that Ms. Paltrow was staying there and she only learned about her plane flight arrangements because another friend of hers worked at Millionaire Airport. She knew Gwyneth had beaten Terry, so when I saw her she told me what happened. I didn't ask her, she said. "I have no idea, that's what I was told," said Mrs. Paltrow, when faced with allegations that her son was unfounded. Has Mr. Sanderson been star-studded by Mrs. Paltrow? In the newly emerged posts, Mr. Sanderson does not mention who was at fault in the accident, but did state on Monday that he did not worship celebrities. "Little did I know where we would be." Gwyneth Paltrow says she lost half a day skiing. He later said, "I don't adore celebrities, so I didn't care at that point. It was the other personality that lived in my body." Mr. Sanderson only commented on his injuries to the Meetup ski group. "Thanks to all of you for your attention." Officially, he wrote at the time, "At least 2 ribs fractured and a concussion. My ribs only hurt when I move." How long did it take for Mr. Sanderson to remember his name? In his 2019 statement, Mr. Ramone told Ms. Paltrow's lawyers that he did not know the name of Mr. Sanderson when he regained consciousness after the collision. He said that at the time, however, Mr. Sanderson remembered a few seconds later and nodded. He later told the jury last week that he did not remember Mr. Sanderson's name and was confronted by his earlier statements by the defense. On the Meetup forum, Mr. Ramone wrote, "Scott, what you didn't see was Terry fainting. Bad blow to the head. I'm not sure if Terry's ribs were broken. I asked Terry what his name was, and he didn't either. Scott, this scared me a lot. When I first asked him, he didn't remember his name," said Ramone, who was cross-examined once again on Monday. Mr. Ramone claimed that he believed it took about 6 seconds for Mr. Sanderson to remember his name, but was unsure as he was not timing. In another post by Mr. Sanderson, he wrote, "I'm so glad to see the sled show up. I really didn't know up or down." What is the extent of Mr. Sanderson's injuries? One undisclosed comments made by Mr. Sanderson shows first signs of concern about impact collision on both his physical health and personality, issue being central to his case. Concussion causes some pretty bizarre physical and personality problems unlike anything I've encountered before. I hope this comes out quickly, Mr. Sanderson wrote. Mr. Sanderson filed for damages in January 2019 and is seeking $300,000 in damages for the injuries he sustained. During first 6 days of trial, Mr. Sanderson's lawyers and expert medical witnesses explained that injuries were likely caused by someone hitting him from back, and attributed noticeable changes in Sanderson's mental acuity to injuries that day. Ms. Paltrow's lawyers sought to portray Mr. Sanderson as a 76-year-old who follows a normal aging process rather than bumping into their famous client.